Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahabati ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah, this evening we will speak and take a brief journey through the garden of taqwa. Of course, such journeys shouldn't be brief. They should, in fact, involve us camping in these gardens until we truly come to know the meanings of all of these lofty concepts. And we know that taqwa is one of, as mentioned in the Qur'an, is a major purpose for the month of Ramadan. The people of taqwa, we know that they are those people who do the things that they are commanded and avoid the things which Allah has made prohibitive. And evidently, to reach a state of taqwa requires vigilance, muraqabah, that we spoke about yesterday. It requires patience, sabr, sincerity, intention, all the things that we've been speaking about in the last few nights. And we know that the verses pertaining to fasting are found in a single set of verses in Surah Al-Baqarah, starting at verse 183. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. That Allah is telling us that كتب عليكم الصيام, that fasting has been prescribed for you. In other words, it's been made obligatory. And then Allah tells us, كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ, that just as it was prescribed for those before you. And if we just pause here and just reflect, and we often get asked this question in Ramadan, how's the fast going for us? And if we gave ourselves a moment to think about it, we see that Allah Most High has made the fast inside the month of Ramadan easy for us, because we know that there is a collective spirit to fasting. We know that we're not alone in this act. And that's what this verse is telling us. كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ, that you are part of a sacred collective act which includes those who came before you. We're told that this is the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam, this is the way of Musa alayhi salam, this is the way of Isa alayhi salam, this is the way of all who went before. In other words, it's what we would refer to as a well-trodden path. We often speak about the idea of isnad, unbroken chains, back to the earliest generations in relation to knowledge. And in this regard, we should know that fasting is the ultimate isnad, it's the ultimate unbroken chain of sacred chain of practice. And so the collective nature, the collective spirit of knowing that this is a collective obligation eases that obligation for us. And for this, we can only just say, Nashkurullah, we thank you, Ya Rab. It's the case that even in relation to all the other sacred acts which Allah has prescribed for us, such as the prayer, the Hajj, whilst making them obligatory, He has also helped us along the way by making them collective acts. Can we imagine if there was no concept of congregational prayer, something which we feel that we're missing right now in Ramadan? The fact that we cannot go to the masjid. We have to pray Taraweeh at home. It's difficult. Where we see that the immense help that we're given in being able to perform these acts as a part of a collective, in congregation. Everyone, if they were praying by themselves, how difficult would that make it? We'd all be wishing if only there were a congregational prayer as we are right now. And the same applies for the Hajj. It's lightened because we know that it's a collective. And our faith places such an emphasis on the collective, on the jama'ah, the idea of unity. Again and again we're told about this. And so we see that Allah Most High is facilitating things for us. And what does Allah say? He reminds us, if you come walking to me, I shall come running to you. He facilitates everything for us. It's just up to us to pay attention And that's the key here, attention. Because as we're told by the Prophet ﷺ, النَّاسُ نِيَامٌ فَإِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبَهُوا, that people are in a state of sleep. And when they die, it doesn't mention that they wake up. It says they come to attention. Why? Because people are in a state of heedlessness, ghafla. Whereas we need to be in a state of attentiveness and attentive to Allah's blessings. Now, ultimately, every act of worship is something which should be taking us a step closer to Allah. It's not the physical act itself which is being sought from us. If that were the case, then just the mere fact of not eating or drinking would be enough. But why are we told that someone could restrain themselves from eating and restrain themselves from drinking, but that's all that their fast is? In other words, it doesn't amount to anything. So what that clearly tells us is that the fast is something more than just staying hungry. But we also know that there are steps that we have to go through. We know that the acts of worship stand as gateways to getting closer to Allah, to arriving at these lofty stations. Take the prayer, for instance. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha wal munkar. It's there to keep us away from abominations. The prayer serves up, it's not the physical act in and of itself. The physical act is there as a gateway to get us to somewhere. And that's similarly the case with fasting. We are told by Allah in the same verse that fasting is there for a reason. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may arrive at this beautiful lofty station that Allah refers to as taqwa. It escapes translation. It really is something which can only be explained as a concept. And even then, I will fall short, no doubt. And so we can understand this verse that we've just read in three parts. That firstly, we can see that there are those who listen to the words of Allah, the fact that Allah is addressing us. This first group of people, it's enough for them that Allah is calling them. They don't need anything more than that. Allah is addressing them, He's calling them, He's telling them to fast, that's it. The second group are those who perhaps need something a bit more. And they are reminded that, look, don't forget, you're part of a collective act. It's that little bit more. Sometimes we seek a little bit more. And then there's a third group of people who then look for reasons. And the particle la'alla in Arabic is exactly that. La'alla, so that, perhaps, it might be the case. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may arrive to the state of taqwa. Imam Razi tells us that the meaning of the verse كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصَّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. He says it's fasting has been prescribed for you لِيَكُونُوا, so that you can be of the muttaqeen, whom Allah has praised in His book. And is it not interesting then that the hope for result by the end of Ramadan is to be God conscious, is to be a muttaqi? Since Ramadan is the time to be conscious of our food, of our desires, we are consciously telling our bodies that I am in control of you. I'm not going to give in to you this month. This is the month when the heart is very much in charge. Ramadan is a time to engage the vertical plane. It's a time that we seek nourishment for our souls from beyond the material world. And because Allah Most High wants us to live principle, value-filled lives, He tells us that fasting is a means to that. In other words, if Ramadan comes and goes, and we have not at the very least moved a step closer to taqwa, what was Ramadan for? As Imam Ghazali says, a nightly buffet of types of food that we wouldn't ordinarily even have throughout the year, and our tables are full of these delights in the month of Ramadan. Of course, that doesn't mean that we can't joy in the blessings that Allah has given us. But if that's all it becomes, then we've missed the purpose of what Ramadan is. So that's one of the wisdoms in fasting being prescribed for us, is it's a gateway to get us to somewhere. Taqwa itself in the Qur'an has been mentioned alongside some 15 different virtues. For instance, we're told that one who has taqwa has guidance. Hudan lil muttaqeen. We're told that the one who has taqwa, he is protected by Allah. Allah, wallahu waliyul muttaqeen. Allah is the protector of the muttaqeen. In other words, if we become conscious of Allah, He takes over our affairs. And that's the exact definition, or the exact description rather, of a wali. A wali is that person whom Allah has taken over his or her affairs. And how does Allah describe this group of people in the Quran? The awliya. Ala inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. Neither shall they be in a state of fear, and neither shall they grieve. When people are in a high state of God consciousness, they only see beauty in things. We're told that those who have taqwa, this is what engenders love. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Yesterday we mentioned the hadith of Mu'adh bin Jabal, and this is one of those companions to whom the Prophet ﷺ says, Ya Mu'adh, inni la uhibbuk. Oh Mu'adh, I love you. Imagine those words coming from the Prophet ﷺ towards you. I love you. I mean, it's I wonder how that person just didn't just explode out of sheer joy. We're told that the one who has taqwa, for such a person, Allah will make a way out for them from any anxiety, from any trouble, in ways that we cannot even imagine. And this is mentioned interestingly again in Surah Talaq. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا. Because talaq, divorce, is that time where things are a bit difficult, which people can be left wondering that, how is this going to end? How am I going to get out of this difficulty? And Allah is telling us, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا. And those who are conscious of Allah, Allah will make a way out for you, and He will provide for us from avenues that we cannot even think about. And then He reminds us that Allah, قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. Same verse, same surah, sorry. That Allah has made for everything an appointed time. Nothing goes beyond its stated time. And it's so important for us to just remind ourselves of that again and again, because in this situation right now where people are having to stay at home, Allah has made an appointed time for everything. Nothing will go beyond the moment that Allah has written for that thing. So Ramadan really is about bringing us to this state of taqwa. When we are fasting, we feel hungry. What do we tell ourselves? No, I'm not going to eat. I'm in control of ourselves. So in other words, we are consciously trying to make an effort to be in charge of ourselves, so that by the end of the month, we have learned how to be in charge of ourselves throughout the year. So you see how the month is a microcosm in preparing us for the entire year. The taqwa in this month, even though it might be a consciousness of avoiding food and drink, is preparing us to be conscious of Allah throughout the year. It's amazing how Allah gives us these opportunities to draw closer to Him. And so Imam al-Razi, we're told that one of the rational proofs that he gives for fasting being obligatory is that anything which prevents one from sinning, it must be understood as an obligation, just like the prayer. The prayer prevents us from from sinning, or it should, if it's done properly, that's the result. If fasting and prayer don't prevent us from sin, then it can only mean that not being done properly. And the same with what does Allah tell us in the Quran? طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى. That we did not reveal the Quran to you to distress you. In other words, we revealed the Quran for you to be happy. If it's making you unhappy, you're not reading it right. The same can be said about the Seerah. People seem to read the Seerah as a book of history, as a book of events. And so people think twice when you tell them, go and read the Seerah, because that will tell you so much about how to tackle life. And after they've read the Seerah, they feel no effect. Nothing changes. But again, that's because they've approached the Seerah as a book of biography, or as a book of history, or as a set of events. No, the Seerah is about meanings. At each and every instance in the Seerah, we should pause and reflect. Spend a day in reflection, in fact. What does it mean that the Prophet ﷺ lost his father before he even came into this world? What does it mean that the Prophet ﷺ lost his mother when he was 6 years old? What does it mean that he lost his grandfather when he was a child? That he lost his uncle and his wife in the same year at one of the most difficult moments in the da'wah, children, before he himself went on to meet his Lord. This is meaning. Each of these is something that we have to pause and reflect. What is it that Allah is trying to tell us? What is it that the life of His most beloved is here to remind us of? And so that's why when we speak about the Seerah, about the Quran, that read the Quran with reflection, read the Seerah with reflection. It's so that we can pause and take meaning. And meaning will only come through that deep process of reflection. So alhamdulillah, again, very brief sojourn. It doesn't do it justice in any way. And even if I spent hours on it, which I couldn't anyway, I wouldn't be able to really speak about it in a way which just does justice to these beautiful gardens that we're attempting to go through. Inshallah, tomorrow we will speak about, to the best of what we can, tawakkul, relying on Allah, and inshallah, al-yaqeen, having certainty, inshallah. We can perhaps pause for a moment or two and take any questions. What if we don't understand Arabic? What is the benefit of reading Quran? There's a reward attached just to the mere fact of reading it. Because you see, meanings are not language bound. It's important to understand that the meaning of something is not bound by the language in which it's conveyed. There's a sacredness that we believe that's attached to the language, and that's the Quran being revealed in Arabic. And we know that there's a specific reward attached to it by reading it in Arabic. And by reading it in Arabic, whether you understand the Arabic or not, doesn't take away from the reward that you will get. That's just an act of reading. Then you have understanding, and understanding is not dependent on the language that it's revealed in. Even though the meaning in Arabic that you get by understanding the Arabic it conveys layers and layers and layers, but that's one of the immensities of the Arabic language. But we can convey that idea, and if that wasn't the case, then religion will have to be confined to just one group of people and not to everyone else. But the message is, the meanings of the message can be conveyed in any language. So just to reiterate that, reading the Quran in Arabic, whether you understand or don't understand, carries the same reward. Sometimes people who don't understand, as I mentioned a few days ago, are more affected by it because their hearts are more attached to the sacredness of what they're doing. But again, the meaning can be conveyed in any language. And again, this is very clear for anyone who just has to pay attention to what's going on around them in the world. Yes, the lofty message of can bear a heavy load on the soul after the realization that this is the complete truth. No doubt. No doubt. And that's how it should be. We should feel perturbed by coming to realize something and states of being that we just weren't in before. When we come to know about the deeper meanings of things, and then we look back on our lives and we recognize that, wow, we could have been doing things differently. It can be overpowering. It can almost be no. When I remember the first time, and I'll share this with you. The first time I ever heard Sheikh Hamza Yusuf speak in the 90s, I almost felt nauseous because it was so overpowering, the message that he was giving, that in my entire framework, my paradigm that I speak about changed. I was just walking around the streets, I think, for days, just disoriented, didn't really know what had struck me, because here was a man who was just telling me about things that they're completely, they shook you up. So that's sort of, part of what we need to see when we read this message, that we should want it to change us and be affected by it. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So thank you very much. Allah bless you all. Again, it's remarkable to see so many different people joining us from so many different parts of the world. May Allah bless you. For those who are about to start their fast, for those of us who have just broken our fast, and for those who are about to break, or whichever time of the day that you're in, inshallah, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Ask you to keep us in your prayers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.